Hello and welcome. We have an important topic tonight. We're talking about the achievement gap in education and in life in general. With me is an interesting, exciting woman. Sondra Samuels is my guest. She is the president and CEO of the Northside Achievement Zone. And we're going to tell you more about the perimeters of that. But First of all, welcome, Sondra.
Thank you, Mary. Nice to be here.
You were the president of the Peace Foundation for 9 years prior to taking over with, do you call it NAZ?
Yes, Northside Achievement Zone, yes. We want to be cool and hip.
Well, we may use both terms throughout the interview. So you were the president of Peace Foundation, and prior to that, you were a consultant with diversity training. But going way back, and I'd love to just talk a little bit about your early days, because they, in a sense, if we use the phrase, informed your career choices.
Yes, absolutely.
Some of your early history. She grew up in New Jersey and went to college out there and then went to Atlanta for your MBA in marketing. But as a little girl, tell us about your family and the move you made from one place to another and move into the suburbs.
Right, absolutely. So yes, I was born in 1965, right in the middle there of the civil rights movement and a lot of unrest in urban core around the country. In fact, that was dubbed the long hot summer in America. In this, the mid '60s through, and Newark had their. I was born in Newark, New Jersey. And Newark had its own riot, as did North Minneapolis on Plymouth Avenue. But all around that time, right? Mid '60s to late '60s. But anyway, grew up in Newark, but left Newark when I was about 8 for the greener pastures of the suburbs, we all believed. It was a time when fair housing legislation got passed in 1968, where communities could no longer redline or discriminate against African-American families moving in, which had been the historical case. And so we left, fair housing legislation got passed in '68, and we moved to Scotch Plains, a suburb of Newark, in about '70, or '72. And I went from like an all African-American community, and the grocer was African-American, my teachers were African-American, so on, to a community more like Edina. And where I became the minority all of a sudden. I was in the 3rd grade. And it was a big shock for me. And there was a lot of expectation that I could not cut the mustard in Scotch Plains.
And that came from?
Teachers.
Teachers.
Yeah, in fact, the teachers in 3rd grade, I still remember kind of sweating in my wooden desk when they told my mother that they wanted to keep my sister and I back a grade because the Newark school system wasn't equal to the Scotch Plains school system. And my mother said, no way, if my daughters cannot pass a test, I understand that, but you test them first. And of course I was totally petrified of failing my mother, and felt like many of the teachers surrounding me, white teachers, expected me to fail. And that's what we deal with so much is children live down to expectations or up, right? And so just a lot of pressure, and I passed.
Were your teachers all Caucasian in the
we moved to Scotch Plains. Yeah, absolutely.
Scotch Plains.
Right, and so the differences in race was new for me, and again not
and just being a new girl.
Being a new girl
is hard by itself.
Yes, absolutely. And so I passed, but by the skin of my chinny chin chin. My sister was always a better student than I was, but it always stuck with me, and feeling that I needed to prove. That I could do it, that I could make the grade, and so had a lot of challenges because of that.
Now here it's somewhat ironic. In Minneapolis, we consider ourselves a progressive city, and yet the achievement gap is, as far as education, I believe in Minnesota and in Minneapolis too, we're way at the bottom compared to all the other states, which I think is kind of a shock to people when they hear that.
Right, absolutely.
Or it should be a shock, shouldn't it?
Yes, because we have a great state. I mean, we absolutely do. But it is the tale of two cities, so to speak, the best of times and the worst of times, depending on what your zip code is. And so children in my zip code, 55411 in North Minneapolis, where I'm living, and have raised 3 daughters, 2 still at home, and a guinea pig, a dog, a cat, and a husband. But the
and
children,
a husband who's a well-known husband.
Yes, my wonderful Don Samuels that I just adore. He's my boyfriend, actually. The girls always, it creeps him out totally. But I just adore the guy.
He was one of our top contenders for mayor in Minneapolis.
Yes, absolutely.
This past fall.
And really made it an education election, which he feels really good about, even in the loss. And of course, we love Betsy Hodges, who is the new mayor. She's been a partner of ours on the North Side for a very long time. So this isn't anything new. But yeah, with Minnesota, it is alarming because we do have so much going for us. And Mary, that's where my hopefulness comes in, is that we do have so much going for us. And I believe that we will get it right, that we have people who have good hearts and who are innovative and who basically are sick and tired of being sick and tired of talking about the achievement gap. We've been talking about this for about 20, 25 years.
Give us the bad news in terms of the achievement gap right now. Is it 1 out of 5?
There's a lot of bad news.
Yeah, well, give us a couple of things
Yes,
that worry
yes,
you the most.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, so what worries me the most is that, so I think not just around the human potential that gets lost because of the opportunity gap or achievement gap, whatever you want to call it, where we have human beings who, because of their skin color and zip code and economic status, are statistically not likely to make it if we continue with the status quo. And so I think about that on an individual level, but I also think about our city, our state, our region. We can't stay economically viable. What I always say, Mary, is that we have so many Fortune 500 corporations that are in Minnesota. I always like to say, God rest Pillsbury, but the old Pillsbury, General Mills, 3M, Honeywell, Medtronic, Target,
Toro.
Yes, I'm missing a bunch, right?
Well, you've gotten a lot of the big ones.
Right, and what I always say is, I sound like a broken record, they are not here because of our beachfront property. They're here because we have the most educated workforce in the country. That's why they're here. And that's why they will stay. But we're in trouble right now. Some of the statistics, for example, in Hennepin County, of all of our citizens who are 0 to 5, 48% are children of color.
And of those children, a lot of them have single parent homes too, right?
Well, that is when you actually get into some of the urban core, some of the areas like mine and zip codes.
Okay, we're talking just broadly, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. It's really in some really unique pockets that have been very isolated.
I wasn't listening carefully.
Yes, absolutely. So the zone, yes, absolutely in North Minneapolis in the zone.
But you're talking all of Hennepin County.
Yes, all of Hennepin County. And in Ramsey County, out in St. Paul, over 50% of our citizens there who are 0 to 5 are children of color. And so when you look at that, how, we are browning as a state, incredibly so. And then you look at how the adults are doing by the children. I don't like to say that children are failing, because we don't have a child problem, we have an adult problem.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah.
We have an adult problem.
We have an adult problem where, we haven't done right by our children. And Mary, I want to keep saying we, because I'm not separating myself from the adults. I'm 48, I'm in there, right?
You're an adult.
I'm a big girl. And so we have this browning of Minnesota. And yet, when the country, for the first time about a year ago, did a comparison of 4-year graduation rates from high school, which we've never done before as a country, Minnesota came in second to last in graduating African American students in 4 years. The only other state that beat us was Nevada in such egregious outcomes, and not the nefarious Illinois with the south side of Chicago or Indiana or Mississippi or Alabama, just Nevada. And I'm wondering what's happening there.
Right, that does make you.
It makes you wonder.
But it really, as I said, I think it's a shock for Minnesotans to hear this.
Yes.
So, Sondra, the Northside Achievement
Yes.
Zone evolved out of the Peace Foundation, correct?
Yes.
Describe for us, if you're sitting on a plane and telling someone you're the president and CEO of NAS,
Yes.
what it is.
Yes. So first thing I would say is, have you ever heard of the Harlem Children's Zone? Because that's where I like to give people a reference. And I'm not sure if you have, Mary.
I have
But
now, but I
hadn't
haven't for
before.
many years.
I think everybody should Google it. Harlem Children's Zone started 20 years ago, and we have replicated that here in Minnesota and Minneapolis style, because we're not Harlem. We don't have Wall Street in our backyard. But it is a place-based strategy to end poverty using education as a lever. And they've been doing it for 20 years, changing everything about a child's life all at once. And today they have 900 students in college from Central Harlem, and these students used to be considered uneducable. And so we received a Promised Neighborhood grant from the federal government. Because I think the way to really distill it is in a quote that's then Senator Obama made, when he said that if poverty is a disease that infects a community in the form of failing schools and broken homes and disparate violence and incarceration and high mobility, if that's what's happening, you can't heal the community in isolation. You have to heal it all at once by lifting up what works.
Looking at the whole.
Looking at the whole and lifting up what works. Because there are some things that work, that are working around the country that don't help just some kids beat the odds, but we're changing the odds for children. And so we're replicating that in North Minneapolis in the zone.
And the zone has real boundaries.
Real boundaries.
We're going to insert a map, but tell us what the boundaries are. It's Broadway on the south.
Yes, and then 35th to the north, Penn to the west, and Highway 94 to the east. And that's 255 blocks. We chose it because it had the worst outcomes for children. And within the Northside Achievement Zone, we don't call children children, we call them scholars. Because of a part of the achievement gap is the belief gap, that many of us don't believe that children born in my zip code can actually have academic and life success because of poverty, because of, you add the because of, one single parent household, violence, drug abuse, whatever. And we know that it is possible. And so again, in changing the odds, about 50 Northside leaders came together over 5 years ago, heard about the Harlem Children's Zone. We were from housing and violence prevention organizations and health and education. And the question got called, could we do that here and have a place-based strategy?
Who brought that question up? Do you remember? Because sometimes it's one question that changes a lot of things.
Yeah, it's changed our world. It certainly, I think everybody would agree the North Side is not the same. And so it was McKnight Foundation and Northwest Community Trust were two foundations that actually asked us to come together as a community to hear about the Harlem Children's Zone because a number of Minnesotans had gone out to Harlem. And so that's kind of what spawned it all. And then we said yes. So we have a 36% four-year graduation rate for African American scholars. We have a 25% mobility rate. Children who start school in September are no longer in that same school, 25% of them by June.
That surprised me. That's a lot of change.
A lot of change. And in fact, a school district employee, and I have to check this stat, but she had just heard the research that for every time a child moves, they lose 6 months of learning. And I can't tell you exactly where I got that from, but I know it's a lot. And so when she said it.
And it's also disruptive to the kids who stay.
And it's disruptive to the kids who stay.
When you're a little child and your best friend moves and
Mariette is,
there's a ripple effect.
Yes, there really is. There's a name for that. But yes, when you're impacted by what's happening. Collateral damage.
Yes.
Right, exactly, there is. So the mobility, mostly single-parented households, 63% of our families right now who are part of NAS are low income. The disparate violence, on my block.
Dads in in prison.
Yeah,
a
some
tough-
just not in the home, but we do have absolutely a disparate, incarceration rate for African American men, as well as unemployment. Minneapolis has one of the highest
Right.
racial unemployment
Right.
gaps in the entire country.
Another thing to not be proud about.
Another thing to, oh yeah, we lead in gaps. So, I mean, like we really do. And I think, for Minnesotans to wake up and know that, not to be filled with shame, but to be filled with the resolve that we can change this and we can do it in our lifetimes. Minnesotans are incredible.
On a personal note, how do you keep that hope and resolve and optimism, because you're getting, so many expectations with this new job.
Yes.
You are getting a lot of realities that make it hard, and coordinating with all these organizations is not easy.
No.
How do you sort of keep your own energy going to keep focused?
Yeah, I was mentioning earlier, Mary, is that so we have 609 families that are part of NAS now. Largely
Okay.
single moms, largely African American, though we have some Hmong and Latino and white, of course, and over 1,500 scholars, 0 to 18, who are in our pipeline, because we're creating this cradle to college
Right.
pipeline, womb to work, we call it. And the thing that inspires me so much and keeps me going are the parents and the scholars who are facing incredible odds around poverty, around isolation and violence and disconnection. And they are showing up, because what we asked is, would you like your child to go to college? When we first started door knocking in the zone, to bring this place-based strategy where we just wrapped around the family. We have 27 anchor partners and 9 anchor schools.
And one of the things you're doing, I think I understood this correctly, is you're pairing one kind of advocate
Yes,
per
yes,
family.
Yes, we
that
have high,
sounded like a really
Yes.
important part
Important
of
part.
the plan.
Yes, we have high expectations with high supports. And so every family gets a NAS connector. We call it a high touch process. And a NAS connector is a family coach, and they are from the Northside community.
And they're paid?
And they're paid. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely, they're paid. It's a full-time job, and they're paid well.
And they work
we,
with just one family?
Actually, each connector will work with up to 40 families.
Oh, okay. I
Yes,
misunderstood
yes,
that
absolutely. And we have about 20 connectors now, largely African American, but we do have Latino and Hmong and one white connector right now. And families come in, they meet with their connector, they create achievement plans. And those achievement plans are what drives them to our opportunity network of all of these partners that are really aligning our resources and our strategies.
So what might one of these achievement, what is the phrase?
The achievement,
The mentors?
the NAS connectors.
The connector.
The connectors.
The
yes.
connector. What would be an example of a couple things they might do in a week with a particular family?
Yeah, well, our connectors do a little bit of everything. So the families that come are all on a continuum of the support they need. We're not saving them. We're not fixing them. We just have, we've offered a partnership. And 609 of them have taken us up on it. So connectors will meet with parents and work with them to create their achievement plan. They do home visits. They visit parents at home. They are co-located in our schools. So we're working with 9 schools. So connectors are based there. So families really know that they have an advocate in the school building. We also have academic navigators that are scholar coaches. So they work with our scholars while our connectors work with the families. And they really partner with the families as they go to our opportunity network of partners who are all sharing the same strategy, the same outcome, aligning our resources. And when they meet with them, no matter where they go, if they go to a housing partner like Urban Homeworks or PPL, or if they go to a career partner or a behavioral health partner, their connector never changes. And he or she is working with them as they achieve goals that they set out for themselves.
One of the articles I read before we got together tonight was about suspensions in our state from school.
Yes.
And I was shocked to read that 46,600 kids in 1 year are suspended. 46,000 in the state of Minnesota. A large percentage are children of color.
60%.
So would that be one of the connectors' possible roles, to go to the school and say, this child that I'm working with was suspended, that kind of thing?
Right. So we actually want to prevent the suspensions from happening in the first place.
Right.
And so we have what we call, Mary, is we say that every scholar has a team. And so the team is made up of mom and or dad, if dad is there, and their NAS connector, their academic navigator, their teacher in the school. Then we'll have there might be a scholar. There's one scholar named Jaquan, who is in one of our after-school programs, was having some trouble. The program wanted to kick him out. Instead, talked to his connector, who said, okay, let me talk to mom. And then mom said, yes, I'm seeing some of those presenting behaviors. They talked to the academic navigator, who said, yep, I've heard from the school some similar things. Then we brought in our behavioral health navigator, who works for us. She talked to this whole team and decided that our behavioral health partner that we should bring in was from North Point, which is a Hennepin County clinic in North Minneapolis. We brought in someone there and then assessed Jaquan, found that he had real trauma, and made a plan for him, a game plan. His from Big Brothers and Sisters was involved. We had a whole team of people around Jaquan. And Jaquan got on a plan, and he told his academic navigator recently that he loves learning. And I say that around the behavior piece, Mary, it's twofold. One, we do have some scholars that have some real challenges. They weren't ready for kindergarten, they're struggling, they may be 2-3 grade levels behind, there may be some real challenges at home. That's why we have the 2-generation approach that we're working with parents, around stronger parenting, but also with the scholars, for them to know they have a community that believes in them. And so while we're working on behavior things, so like Jaquan got the help he needed, there's also a skill set that happens. You and I both know not all teachers are the same, not all youth workers are the same, and there are some that have better skills at de-escalating behaviors in the classroom. And so both need to happen. And we have to figure out a plan where the students aren't, because as soon as you suspend a student, they're not learning.
We only have a few minutes left.
Yes.
And
wow.
Your program has been in place for 3 years, or 2.5, almost.
2.5, yes.
Half through the 5-year grant.
Yes.
Tell us how you're doing in terms of outcome, and how the people who've had this wonderful attention.
Yeah, we have some great early outcomes. I'm going to just spew some off because I know we have to end. So of course now we have 609 families, over 1,500 scholars that are in our pipeline of support, all getting the high touch NAS connectors as well as academic navigators. The scholars who were in some of our after school programs the summer that just passed, 65% of them made half a year's growth in reading. Of that, 45% made a full year's growth. We're doing progress, and only one had summer slide. And we knew what program they were in, who their parent was, and their NAS connector, and were able to isolate.
I'd love to hear more of the success stories. We are out of time.
Yes.
I want to give the website for NAS, the Northside Achievement Zone. So I'm sure Sondra has piqued your interest. You can go to www.northsideachievement.org and learn more about what you are doing, some more of the goals, some more of the backgrounds.
I would love you to do
and
that.
You brought
one of our T-shirts, and this is really to spur belief, Mary, that whenever a parent graduates from Family Academy, our College Bound Babies program, the babies graduate too. And our younger scholar will graduate from a 4-year college in 2036.
Right there, that just says so much, doesn't it? I mean, the hope, the expectation.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry we've run out of time, but what you've shared, I think, is so interesting, so important for our state, for our community, for our young children, our families. So continued success to you as you work with this wonderful and challenging problem.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. We'll be back again next week. Until then, have a good week and check out the Northside Achievement Zone. Bye-bye.